Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have John Carpenter back with us on his third visit to our little channel. He's one of our favorites since he's been here more than almost anybody. I think more than anybody. And I had very interesting conversation, interaction, and questions last time. And Lala and I, on her 43rd birthday, are very happy to have John back. John, how's it going?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back with you guys. You're like my best friends.
There you go.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we can, well, really quick, can we just say a shortened version of who you are, real quick, just for everybody, and then we'll get into whatever.
Well, there isn't a short version, but I'll give you the highlights.
No, don't do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Tell the version you want.
Don't ever tell me to do whatever I want.
We're good.
Okay, well, first of all, I got a degree in psychology and then in psychiatric social work, and I've worked in counseling for about as many years as Lala is old. So, but in the process, I learned hypnosis at the Manager Clinic in Kansas. And gosh, that was a long time ago. And about that time in the 80s, books came out about like Missing Time and Intruders by Bud Hopkins, and then Communion by Whitley Strieber. And I thought, oh, I love UFO studies. I've done research. In fact, my high school term paper was on UFO research. The teacher loved it so much, she gave it an A+ and kept it as a model for other students to learn from. We didn't know that I'd end up actually being a UFO researcher. But anyway, so I always had an interest, actually, since third grade. And when I became trained in hypnosis, and then these books came out where they're using hypnosis to reveal what abductees are recalling, I thought, whoa, that would be so interesting. And I waited another year. And then in the back of one of the books, it had three sources: Hynek's Center for UFO Studies in Illinois, MUFON, Mutual UFO Network International, and Bud Hopkins' address. And I wrote all three and volunteered. 2 days later, MUFON calls me, signs me up as a state section director and a research specialist using hypnosis. And I thought, great, now what do I do? And then Bud Hopkins calls me at home 2 months later. He admitted he's 2 months behind on his mail, and immediately gave me a case in Missouri, which was really fascinating. And we talked for an hour on the phone, and that was one of the most inspiring phone calls because he'd tell me his little tricks and tips when using hypnosis, and we compare notes, and we asked each other questions, and it was just so cool. And I was shaking the whole time because I thought, oh my God, this is Bud Hopkins calling me. And anyway, and then we met and became good friends, and had many years sharing stuff. So that's how the UFO stuff started, and I was in it from about 1988 to about 2000 and active research till about 2001. And then I've still done lectures in different countries and other places since then. After all that, and that's all in my free time, volunteer. That's all in my free time. So, but it's okay. I had about 140 abduction cases and many multiple participant cases, which was really great, and kind of specialized in when there are two or more people are taken. That really was a good thing to work on. But I learned a lot, and then I got into more ghost and paranormal stuff and loved all that too, and still do, and still get stories from people, and oh my gosh. And then I got into spiritual and religious miracles, and I didn't know so much was out there, but boy, the more I studied, the more I found, and that has just blown me away as well. So I guess if it's anything supernatural at all, I'm in.
There you go.
So, now that's plenty to work with.
Real quick, I wanted to ask a question about, you said you love the cases with two people being abducted at the same time, that you worked with them.
Yes.
Can you kind of talk about any of them?
Oh, yeah. I had a great case. Two women traveling to a conference in Colorado. And it was just kind of a self-improvement conference. And on the way back from Colorado or Denver, they were passing through, I believe it was Flagler, Colorado, that they stopped for gas, noted the time, and it was about 10 o'clock at night or so. And they thought, well, we're stopping in Goodland, Kansas for the night, so that's only about an hour away. Well, on that venture into Kansas, they saw this strange light in the sky, and then it came down closer, and they were kind of puzzled by it. Now, they didn't believe in Star Trek or science or UFOs or nothing. They actually didn't like any science fiction, so that was a good start in terms of their background. But they saw this light that then was over a field next to the highway, and it kind of looked like an ice cream cone with a light shining down. Then they don't remember anything except now they had pulled over to the side of the road to get a good look, and the next thing they know, they're pulling out. One lady has a nosebleed. The other one's got a headache. They don't want to talk. They feel irritable, confused. They get to their hotel. It's 2 a.m. 2 hours have gone by, and the guy at the motel says, "Why are you guys out so late? How come you ladies are out so late?" And they go, "What? It's only 11 o'clock or something." And no, it's not. It's 2 a.m. And they go, "What?"
Wow.
And okay, so make a long story short, neither one knew what happened, but they got back to Missouri, and luckily they're in St. Louis, where the state MUFON director is, Bruce Wiedemann, who passed away recently, I'm sorry to say. But it so happened I was up there visiting him, and so a week after this happened, I got to meet one of the ladies, and she agreed to do a little hypnotic exploration, just a kind of a quickie session. And oh my gosh, she didn't know anything about this research, and she was recounting being pulled up in a beam of light, being in a round room, seeing her friend laying on a table being examined, stuff being put up, instruments up her nose, and she's the one that had the nosebleed.
Mm.
And then she's getting all sorts of information and messages as well, and yet she knew nothing about this ever. And of course, this was 1989, so there was no X-Files, there was no Little Grays on TV, there were no ET T-shirts, there was none of that. Those images were not out yet. And so basically, make a long story short, 2 weeks later, I came back, or actually, they came down to Springfield from St. Louis. And the other lady who knew nothing, and I told the first lady, don't you tell her anything. She goes, oh, I won't, because I want to know what she comes up with. Put her under hypnosis. She too recalls going up in a beam of light. She too finds herself in a round room with a light coming from who knows where.
Wow.
And she's laying on the table watching her friend look at her standing nearby, just like the first one had said. Saw the same things in the room, the same details, the same creatures, everything, even got some of the same messages. And when she was done, she goes, that was weird. Does any of that make sense? I pulled out Bud Hopkins' book to both ladies and said, does it look familiar? And I showed a picture of the little gray, and they just fell over. They go, how could that be in that book? We just saw it in our head. And they just were amazed. I had one of our investigators was a great artist, so we call her our police artist, and she got with each of them and did literally a police sketch artist rendition of both of those visions they had. And of course, this was done separately, and when we compared, they looked exactly alike. So
that's a good idea, actually.
Oh, that's wonderful.
and so it goes back to like Betty and Barney Hill, where they were hypnotized separately, and that made that case very powerful. Well, this case made the front cover of MUFON Journal. It's called Another Interrupted Journey.
Right.
And Then it was published in the Center for UFO Studies scientific journal, and it was quite a case. And I did more sessions with the first woman. She ended up having a number of experiences previously and didn't know it. Then her daughter was involved and didn't know it, and we had a couple generations going there. So, yeah, the more you dig, the more you find. And again, the way I do hypnosis is not to suggest anything to them, but instead use trick questions to lead them toward logical answers, which of course they'll say, no, no, it's not like that. For example, I'll say, when you're in this place that you see yourself in now, what do you notice in any of the corners of the room? Well, that's a logical question, right? We all have corners to rooms. Well, their eyes go round and round and round and round and round, and they go, I'm sorry, I can't find any corners. It appears to be a round room. And see, I knew it should be a round room, but I'm trying to lead them toward a logical answer. Because everyone says, oh, hypnosis is so suggestible and you can just make them think whatever you want to. Well, I'm trying to make them think logical answers, and they're telling me, it's not like that.
Right.
Which is the way to do it. And I did that with everybody. Sometimes I have had 50 tricks in a session. They almost get frustrated with me. No, it's not like that. It's like this.
Yeah, so you're trying to get past confabulation,
right,
etc. So how hard did you find that to get beyond, to get to then stay on target?
You know what? They never, ever veered away from what they experienced. I never had anyone follow my suggestions, fall for the tricks. And it was almost comical because I always had an assistant with me, and she had to keep from laughing because I would be so insistent on trying to lead them in the wrong direction, and they were so insistent and frustrated, and they were trying to take me the right direction.
There you go.
But it was my effort to show that hypnosis was not producing this information. In fact, they were sticking to their memories clearly and not to what I was suggesting.
Did you ever have a case where you did a regression and found out that one of your clients had hopped on the ship and gone home with them?
Gone home where?
Wherever they are from.
No. I think the farthest out they got was like looking at the Earth from like orbit, looking out the window and seeing the Earth from what an astronaut might see.
I think that's neat.
I know it's neat.
Now, I will say this. I haven't said this before. A couple of them were taken underwater to underwater bases and were shown an underwater base. And they said that the craft could move through water just like air.
Oh, I want to know about that.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what she said. And, we've seen those videos recently from the Navy or Air Force or whatever that show the object just slicing right into the water like no big deal at all. So it backs it up. And also around Puerto Rico back in the early 90s, they had a lot of craft coming out of the water and being witnessed by ships and fishing boats and stuff going in and out of the water. So that's, of course, they call them USOs, unidentified submerged objects.
Okay. Did you have did you have U.S. Navy military personnel that saw USOs that became your clients?
Now, it's interesting. I had a military client once at a conference in St. Louis with none other than Bruce Maccabee and Leonard Stringfield sitting in the room watching.
Wow.
You know them. Leonard Stringfield was huge in collecting military witnesses. He had about 650, he told me. And of course, Bruce Maccabee just died recently, and he was the laser optics physicist who analyzed many photos and video footage for MUFON. Excellent.
I got to know him a little bit and interviewed him a couple of times on Spaced Out Radio. He was clearly getting old, but he was still as sharp as a tack. Yeah,
he's a class act, that's for sure. We had him to a conference here in Springfield, and he was playing the grand piano like a pro. He He had a lot of class. But anyway, so they're both sitting in the room with me trying to hypnotize this military client. And just as she started to see something, her hand flew up to her mouth and covered her mouth. She goes, "I'm not allowed to say anything."
Ooh, that was a post-hypnotic suggestion on their part?
I think that was a military thing.
Aha, I see.
And both of them looked at me like, whoa. They were kind of like surprised to see her do that. But they understood, and we didn't get very far.
Wow.
Linda Moulton Howe brought one of the Bentwaters, England people to me, John Burroughs.
Yep.
Brought him to Springfield and had me work with the Bentwaters case, trying to get more details of what he kind of had some missing time, and I don't think he was abducted, but I think he was told to not remember certain things. And we didn't really get a whole lot more, but it was, of course, fun to work with both of them. Let me tell you real quick about another two-person case, and this one I shared with Linda Howe. She and I had met, and she had done in her Emmy Award-winning Strange Harvest documentary.
Yeah.
At the end of that, there's a lady, Judy Doherty, who is hypnotized by Leo Sprinkle, psychologist in Colorado. And this was back about 1980, I guess. The incident happened in the late 70s, and he hypnotized the mother in 1980. And she remembered this is really important. She saw a calf being lifted in a blue beam of light up to a craft, and then she was lifted up with her daughter to the craft, and she witnessed the calf being mutilated and cut up on board the craft. Then she saw her daughter on a table, and she freaked out and cried because she says, "Oh no, they're going to cut her up now." And so she's screaming and crying, seeing her daughter, on that table. Now that's in Linda Howe's documentary, Strange Harvest, that won an Emmy, all about cattle mutilations and stuff. So that was a very important case. Well, guess what? Cindy's daughter, who didn't believe in any of this crap and thought her mother was nuts, she didn't really hear her story or anything about the session. She just thought her mother was crazy to believe in all that stuff. But she too had seen the strange light, couldn't deny that. She too had seen a beam of light come to the ground and a calf being caught in it.
Wow.
And Linda Howe came to Springfield, where I live, and had me do a 3-hour hypnosis session while her film crew filmed it. And guess who it was funded by? Robert Bigelow, who was sitting right there in the room as I did the hypnosis with Cindy Doherty's daughter. Judy Doherty's daughter, Cindy. Well, guess what? And Cindy was priceless because, she didn't believe in any of this stuff. And all of a sudden she's seeing the calf, and she sees she feels herself being lifted in the air and into the craft. She sees the calf being mutilated on board the craft, just like Mom did. And next thing she knows, she's lying on a table, and she feels very peaceful and numbed out. But she looks over and sees her mom screaming and crying, looking at her. What a perfect match.
Wow.
And Linda Howe actually had me write the chapter for her book. I think it's called Alien Harvest. Big, book that you'd have on a magazine table. So when that came out in the early 90s, she actually had me write up that chapter on the daughter's experiences. So, but how exciting that was to 10 years later with a different hypnotist in a different city, having the daughter validate and confirm what the mother had come up with that she never knew about. She never knew about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So her memory never returned to her waking state.
Once she remembered this stuff, yeah. And people tell me it's like a page missing from your book. There's something missing, and then when you recall it, you might think it would scare people or freak them out, but no, actually, it explains so much of their feelings, their reactions, phobic reactions, nightmares, dreams. It explains so much that they never could understand.
Right. Have you ever worked with someone or hypnotized someone who it wasn't an alien issue? It was like either a cryptid or paranormal or demon kind of situation where they blocked it, or
not really that kind of a session, mainly because I was being referred clients who clearly had UFO
okay.
experiences. But I will tell you an interesting experience I had with a client. I had actually just talked with an exorcist, um, a very famous exorcist who did a couple-hour talk in our town. And I had this client who, his mother and his neighbors all swear he was possessed. He talked differently and everything like that. And I said, well, how can I test him out? And the exorcist says, well, hide blessed objects like, medals or medallions or crucifixes. Wear one under your shirt, hide them under the chair seat, put them in different places in the room. I said, if that's demonic or devil, they'll know. They will know. And they won't go near them, and they'll call it out. But if it's not really a possession, they'll sit right on the chair and they'll just talk, not realizing there's anything there. Well, that client came in and I hit all the stuff, no reaction whatsoever. And so at the end of the session, he and his mother were both there, and I told him what I'd done, and he was actually relieved. He goes, "Oh, good. I'm so glad you did that." And you know what? He never did have a possession. It was all psychological. But get a load of this. I was talking to another psychiatric client, and he was a very nice young man in his late 20s. And all of a sudden he came in saying he just felt horrible. And he's having all these voices telling him to kill himself. And he was going to leap off an overpass onto a busy highway. And he was trying to get rid of these voices. And his girlfriend was real religious and had all these blessed objects in the house. And he couldn't stand being there. And so I was talking to him about it, and then he looked at me and he said in this deep voice, "And I hate that crucifix you're wearing under your shirt."
Shut the fuck up.
And I went, "Oh crap." That's just what the exorcist told me would happen. And his mother was sitting right there listening to all that, and I pulled out my crucifix, which is about almost 2 inches long and an inch and a half wide. And the mother about fell out of her chair. She says, "You really are wearing one?" I go, "Yes." And then I made him touch it and hold it because I wanted to see if his hands would burn. Well, yeah, I'm going to test this out. But of course, it didn't. And so I told him right away, I switched into religious mode. I says, "You start saying prayers, you start doing this," and told the mother, "Make sure this, get some blessed objects, blah, blah, blah." I just came loose with all that because I thought, I've got a real demonic presence here.
Right.
And so they did. And he also moved away from that girlfriend's house. And next time I saw him, he was calm, no suicidal stuff. And I said to him, "Am I wearing the crucifix today?" And he goes, "No." And I pulled it out and said, "Yeah, I am."
Oh, okay.
So it was gone, and he's been fine ever since. But boy, did that creep me out when he just looked at me and says, "And I don't like that crucifix under your shirt." And you could not see I was wearing anything. It's like right now. You couldn't see I was wearing it right now. You have no clue.
I would have ran.
Yeah, that gave me chills. Trust me.
Oh my God. I believe it. I do. There's all kinds of weird stuff out. And I feel like I listen to exorcists online, and I've talked to a couple, and they say that there's more attachments now than before. So it's almost, and a lot of times people don't even know they have attachments.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
It's crazy. It doesn't always get to possession, but there's definitely attachments.
I have a question. Do you believe, I see this increase in frequency as well, but do you believe it's because we've moved away from going to church on Sunday, and we have all these devices which are tweaking people's curiosity with all these social media things covering this stuff, and they look at it like entertainment, and it's not really.
Well, see, I study religion a lot as I explored all these things, and I firmly believe when you open the door, like with a Ouija board, which is very careless, I say it's like letting a toddler cross a highway without any supervision. I mean, you don't know what you're doing. You're opening the door and inviting anything in, and it can lie to you, it can possess you, it can take up residence in your house, and all sorts of bad energies and evil stuff can come in if you open that door. So you've got to be careful, and you can't just do that willy-nilly. You've got to. I mean, the best psychics which you see on TV, like Kim Russo, John Edward, people like that. They are very careful. They can sense something that's dark, and they immediately do not allow it near them. And they're careful.
Right.
But I think these days we've gotten so much away from God and spirituality that we've allowed the devil to win. We've allowed him. He loves it that we don't think he exists, and he loves it um, that we're distracted, and so people have gotten so far away. I mean, even in Israel, so many of the people there aren't that religious. I was surprised to hear that. And there are some countries that are almost total atheists. And so with all that going on, it just invites more dark forces and demonic presences. Are you hearing echo?
Did we freeze?
Yeah, our camera froze for some reason. I wanted to figure out why it went off.
Well, I'm still here.
Yeah, you're fine.
No, we're frozen.
Well, what energy did you let in there?
I don't know. No,
Stop.
it's frozen on our screen, but it's not frozen online.
Freak me out.
I don't know whatever. We're fine.
Well, we can hear you fine.
The audience can see us moving, but we can't.
For everybody out there, they've just entered a dark space.
Yes, we entered the other dimension.
Maybe they'll come back one day. Well, so to further answer your question, I just think that if you read in the Bible, it talks about Jesus going from village to village, casting out demons right and left. All right, who's doing that today?
Right.
If no one's doing that today, there's a lot of attached demons, and you can tell when someone just isn't themselves, when they seem like they're in a dark place or they aren't themselves. I mean, you can just feel that. You can sense it. And Lala, I bet you really can pick up on that.
Oh my God, yeah. It's a shift in the whole room, or even if it's online, it's just a strange feeling like I'm being watched.
We'll just keep going like this.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I definitely feel a pair of eyes on the extra. It's creepy. But I've only felt that a few times. But each time I felt it, I did have some visitations after the.
Hello, everyone. It's the John Carpenter Show. I just saw them disappear completely. They have gone into a black hole. Well, we'll wait and see if they return. And maybe you can't even see me. But I see me, so I'm hopeful that you're still out there. But it's a little creepy when the hosts disappear into a black hole, especially when we're just talking about that. So we'll count on Lala to use her positive energies to bring them back and be among us once again. Gee, be nice to have someone to talk to. Oh dear. Da, 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 da. So, if anyone out there dabbles with dark energies, just be very careful. Do not unless you're with a professional or somebody who's had a lot of experience, because You don't want things staying in your house or attaching to you or affecting your moods. I've seen it, and it's just not a good thing. And those dark forces, they love every opening they can grab. They love coming in and causing havoc and doing the things that they do. I think that's one reason the world is so screwed up now. So many people have gotten away from that and have allowed these forces to come in and affect them and their behavior. All these shootings, mass shootings and stuff. It's you just wonder what's possessing these people, what's going on. So I don't know if anyone's hearing me, but I guess I could keep entertaining you while our hosts have vanished into thin air. It says we're live. It says I'm on the show. It says everyone can see me. So didn't expect to be in this position. Oh dear. So like I said, anything supernatural catches my interest, and I think our world is just full of amazing things that we have no clue about.
All
Hey,
right, we're going to have to do it this way.
hey, that's okay.
We're on our phone. Don't know what happened. Something's wrong with the camera and stuff on the computer, so we'll just do it with the phone.
Well, we shouldn't talk
And
about.
everybody can see our green screen and all that. We'll just make do.
Well, I went on and talked about dark energies and you guys disappearing into a black hole, so I'm sure they're
We could
glued
hear
to the
you.
show
We
now.
could hear you and see you, but we couldn't join you. Yeah, the computer, our cameras. Now it's back. The camera just decided to call. It doesn't matter. We're staying on this because it's working.
Lala, you better scan the place for any weird energies.
Okay, hold on. Hello. Hi.
We're fine. As
Nice
long
to
as they
see you
can hear
guys.
us, they don't need to see me. They need to see you.
Well, I attempted to entertain the troops while you were gone, but
Well, listen, last night I was getting an energy reading from someone, and I've had a strange life, and after my family passed, some really dark energies started messing with me. I didn't tell her about that. She felt it. The lights, all the lights in my house turned on and off. And then and I was in my bed and my side light started to flicker. And
oh
so we started talking about this now, and it's just like,
yeah.
anyway.
Hey, I don't think there's any coincidences. I think it's if you've had more energies recently, and then here we are talking about them, and all of a sudden that happens. Hey, in paranormal research, how cameras go dead, batteries go dead, cameras
Right.
go off. I mean, if anyone's been watching Skinwalker Ranch, that happens all the time there with
Right.
professional equipment. No explanation ever, but yet it happens when you're around different energies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on.
So, Lala, how do you attempt to?
What the heck is that?
Now we're in a multiverse.
It'll be over a minute.
Oh my goodness! What a disaster!
Hey, I'm proud to be of a show that just went to another dimension.
I
What
don't
a neat
even know
experience.
what's transmitting because I'm looking at it and we're not transmitting.
Oh, that sounds like Skinwalker Ranch completely.
Oh my goodness!
It
All
does.
right, it'll end in a few seconds. We're
It's
fine.
exactly what happened there. Oh my goodness.
I apologize to everybody. We're having all sorts of technical difficulties.
Are you kidding? This is more entertaining than they've probably had in a while. Hey, Lala, I want to know when you sense negative energies, what do you do? What do you do?
Wait, it's about to end, and we can't really hear you.
Okay. Everybody out there's loving this.
Oh, this is the most technical difficulties I've ever had.
I hope something is there. Jeez.
Okay, it's finally over.
Well, that shows how we ought to be careful what we talk about.
Oh, I know what's going on. Oh my goodness. All right, I got it now. We were playing the video from the beginning.
Okay.
And now we're not. Okay, I really apologize, folks.
It's just dimensional.
That shit happens. What can I say? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the demon here tonight was
Oh
me.
God. Okay. All right.
Well, it possesses many people, so.
At
Say,
least
Lala.
everyone got a good laugh out of it, I hope.
Oh, it was great. I'm sure everybody was very entertained out there. It was pretty interesting from where I sat. Watching you guys just vaporize.
Science Bob wasn't much of a scientist.
Well, some of the time there's forces greater than you. So, Lala, when you sense negative energy or negative spirits around you, how do you handle that?
I was taught by my dad and others to always immediately surround yourself. Think of a bright white light around you, all around you. And you have to be very verbal, whether you say it inside yourself or outside, that nothing negative or with ill intent is allowed here. It has to leave, only loving energies. Because I even had a spirit say literally to me as a child, be careful what you say, for it may come true.
That's
So
true.
They play on words, absolutely. And
Yeah.
they try to find an in, you know. So,
Perfectly said. I agree 100%.
So
100%.
Since I've been with her, I only find her you're going to understand. I've taken over a role. The role I've taken over, the only role I have in any of her work is remind her at the end of a reading to close it off.
Yeah.
She would leave it open, stuff would hang around. My grandmother followed her around for 4 days. To the grocery store, into the restroom. And I can tell you, my grandmother was a feisty little thing.
Well, I'm sure she made her presence known then.
She gave her the eye.
She gave me the side eye. I've never
My grandmother gave you the side eye. And I knew that's what I waited till she told me she had given her the side eye so I could be sure it was my grandmother that was there.
Oh, that's wonderfully creepy.
But I mean, she has people come here and visit and talk to her, and I see her over there, and then they're gone. They find her, they need her, they ask her to do, like recently, she did a reading for a person in Baltimore whose son came and visited and was desperate to talk to her because his time on earth did not end all of that well, and he wanted to talk to her and tell her he was okay.
I love that.
Yeah, that happens to her all the time.
I've often felt like a good psychic or medium, whatever you want to call yourself, if they're really good, it's like a beacon, like a lighthouse to the spirit world, and they can see the open window and they all run to it because they see an opening that they can come through and maybe, just like you said, connect with a relative or right some kind of wrong or whatever. I've felt that for a long time, and I've seen that with different people I know with those abilities. They just, it even happened to someone I knew. A client of mine had visited a psychic, and recently at our clinic, the doctor who ran it had died suddenly, and the client was visiting the medium, and the medium says, "There's a doctor coming through here. He wants to deliver a message." And she says, "Well, who is it?" And then she gave the name, and that psychic didn't know the doctor at all, didn't know who he was or nothing, but gave the name and the message. And then my client came back to me and says, "That doctor who died has a message for you." And he said, "The clinic is not going to last 2 months. You've got to make changes. You've got to do something. It's not going to last." And he needed to do that before he passed on, was to let you know. And I was just blown away. And
Wow.
it's interesting because the doctor's wife then and actually met with that medium because she was so impressed. And that
Oh,
medium told her things about their marriage and their life that there was no way that medium could have known. And it was coming from the doctor who had died.
no.
Yeah, she got convinced me uh, going into the inside of my family, telling
Mm,
me things that my parents knew, that I knew, that no one else knew, that I'm
right.
aware of. My
Yeah.
grandmother visited her, and I told you what happened. Hung out for days, and
Hmm.
then, but my grandmother visiting was kind of the first moment when
Yeah.
I said, "This is real," because she kept saying a word that Lala couldn't quite understand because it didn't make any sense. And I
Hmm.
said, "Well, what is it?" She said, "She's saying the word Tweety." And my grandmother called me Sweetie when I was too young to say.
Ah.
So I called her Tweety, and that became her grandma name.
Oh
And
my
so I
God.
knew right then that she was talking to my grandmother.
Yeah.
The pièce de résistance was, she says, she's got a little poodle in her arm. My grandmother was a poodle breeder, and
Uh,
she had her favorite Pierre in her arm.
oh, I love it. I
Yeah,
love
and she followed her around for days. She
it.
was
See,
very grateful because my grandmother and I had a rough relationship near the end of her life, and we forgave each other. And she brightened up. She says she became much brighter and happier. Her frequency
wow.
went up. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I
I
was.
love that.
It was a big impact on me emotionally.
That is so great. I have a, I love those stories. And, because my clients come to me thinking that they might have psychiatric problems, because sometimes they really don't, but
Mhm.
they've experienced something that makes them think they're going crazy. And because they'll open up to me to see if they are crazy, I get the best stories. And especially paranormal ones and spiritual ones and all of this stuff, UFO ones, because they all think that they might be going crazy. So
Right.
I almost get one every week. It seems like that opens the door. Let me tell you about one real quick that I always enjoy. This daughter had been real close to her mother. They were just buds. And the mother died. And soon after, the daughter actually saw her image briefly, but she could smell her perfume. She could feel her sit on the
Oh
bed
yes.
next to her.
Oh,
All sorts of things. Now, the mother and father had been divorced, and he lived in his own little house and just watched TV and wanted to be left alone. So the daughter goes over, and this is my client, goes over to his house and says, "Oh, Dad, you won't believe it. Mom was here, and I smelled her, and I saw her, and da 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 da." And he goes, "Oh, you're just imagining that. It's because you just want to see her, and you just miss her, and just don't tell me anymore." And so she sat there kind of depressed, and he's watching his TV, and all of a sudden the TV goes off. And he
no.
gets up and he checks it and he checks everything, checks the remote, checks the batteries, nothing's wrong. And he can't figure it out. And she's sitting there watching and she says, "Oh, Dad, that's Mom. She turned off the TV because she didn't like what you were saying." And he said, "There you go again. Everything's related to Mom. You're just making everything connected to her." And so you know what she said? I love this. She goes, "Okay, Mom, if that's you, turn the TV back on." Boom, right away, the TV came right back on. He was so freaked out, he had to leave his own house for about 3 hours.
Yeah. So
Real.
I,
It really is real.
I get into politics, so I watch it on TV. And so recently, so much has been going on. I'm watching it too much, and something wants me to not be doing that and doing something else like the paranormal stuff or whatever. We're looking for UFOs, whatever, and they are unplugging the TV from the wall
They really do.
10 times in the last 2 or 3 months.
I didn't believe them, and it happened to me, and I'm like, okay, he's not lying. This is really, it's weird. It really is.
Now you should put a camera on that plug so you can see it unplugged.
Thing,
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
We have one in the. Actually, we do. We have one. It gets the living room with the TV, and then the dining room, kitchen. Well,
Yeah, we might as well do it. because it is not going to stop us. It has insisted on making its presence
I think
known.
it's funny.
I think it is too.
I think it's hilarious. Now, which of your relatives would play that prank on you?
My dad.
Her dad definitely would. So it's the first time I knew he was checking me out. I was still living in Alabama. I was in my bed, and I heard something in the corner of the master bedroom. And I looked over there, and I thought I saw a figure. And it walked across the room, stopped at the end of the bed, looked at me with those dark eyes, and disappeared.
Whoa.
So I went, oh, yes. So I asked her to tell me something about her dad. So she told me about her dad. And I said, do you have a picture of him when he's between 12 and 14 years old? She did, and it was him.
I love that. I love that.
And then I was at Gulf Shores at my camper, and I saw this lady walk up, get just around by my car. But people down there are friendly. They would come and just say hello if you were out. And I thought it was just somebody coming by to say hello, because I had a lot of friends down there. The woman walked up, stopped just on the edge of the porch where I had my lounge chair, and looked at me and disappeared. And I went, wait a minute, I remember that face. And it was her mother.
I'll be. You might remember, because I know you have the book that I wrote on the intense reality of eternity.
Yeah.
And in the section that is labeled that other place, purgatory, you might remember reading there were many instances of people just walking by the end of the bed, stopping and disappearing and showing up like that.
Yep.
Yeah, very common.
Can you share some stories about the near-death experiences that?
Just before you do, think of some good ones you want to. But listen, people. John wrote this book because these intense near-death experiences are related things. And it is, in my estimation, the best of all those books I've read.
Oh,
I'm
thank you so
talking
much.
better than John or Henry or whoever. It's just quite amazing. And what he did was he organized it into, because some of the stories are slightly different. They're common themes, but the stories are slightly different. And he would organize them into the chapters where every one of the cases in the chapter shared a major component in common. Like they went and saw the pearly gates or the kingdom of heaven or whatever. It was pretty amazing. So John, tell us some of your stories, but I recommend everyone go get that book and read it.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, the intense reality of eternity. And thank you for saying that. I love the book just as much, because when I put it together, I didn't know it was going to turn out like that. Because the way I looked at it, everybody has kind of a piece of the puzzle. They have certain things that they've experienced, certain things they remembered. And so when I took over 200 cases from 54 different sources and kind of pieced them together, like their testimonies that were similar, and then put them all together, it just blew me away. Because in true good science, if you have repeating data that suggests reality, if it's fantasy, it's going to go 1,000 different directions.
Right.
And for example, the gates of heaven, one person says, oh, it looks like a giant pearl. Another person says, it looks like they smeared pearlescent icing on it. Another person says, it looks like a bunch of melted pearls. Another person says, it looks like a whole bunch of little pearls stuck together. And yet these people don't know each other, and they come from all different parts of the world, even different backgrounds. They might even be atheists. They might even be blind since birth. It doesn't matter. They're all seeing and reporting the same kind of details. And the whole book, as you know, is like that from start to finish. And that includes hell, which don't read before bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even that is extremely consistent, and it helps you understand more about how people go different directions and why and what it is that's important on this planet. And to sum it up, it's love. Love for your fellow man and for your animals and for helping others and all of that. But anyway, yeah, please check it out because it's on Kindle too and things like that. But I tell you what, I still just love going through it because there's so much information in there. And by putting all those puzzle pieces together, you get one continuous journey from leaving your body all the way as far as you can possibly go through the expanse of heaven. And I love how it came out.
The stories that kind of got to me most in the book were the ones where they were Shinto or Buddhists or whatever, and they went up and saw heaven.
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
Well, and the scientists studied 500 Hindus from India, and they have their blue-eyed and blue skin and green-eyed, Brahmas and all these different gods that they worship. And so they looked at all their near-death experiences, all 500 of them. Not one out of 500 saw their own gods. They all saw a bright light with a figure that looked like Jesus. And that blew the scientists away because they thought, well, just the power of suggestion, just what they would want to see or what they would hope to see or what they would expect to see should have affected them. Not 1 in 500 studied saw their own gods that they worship every day.
Did they ever, some people think that angels are really just a bunch of eyes with wings? Or have you ever heard anybody talk about that they saw something that was angelic, but it looked different?
Nope, not really. They could look just like regular people, or they would have wings. There are different types of angels, and the angels do all sorts of different things. There are warrior angels, there are messenger angels, there's protective angels, there's guardian angels. I mean, it just goes on and on. They're all spiritual beings. People often think they're us, when we die, become angels. No, 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 no.
Yeah, different.
It's totally different. They're spiritual beings that serve God, and it's quite interesting, all the descriptions. Some are quite tall, quite big, maybe 15 feet tall, and others might be smaller. So it's not just one simple thing, but it sure is interesting because even there, all the descriptions match up, even with different ones.
It's cool.
Yep. So let's see. Yeah, the ones that get to me are, there's a lot of people now think that the angels are non-human intelligence. Well, they're not human, and they are intelligent, and they serve the quote universal consciousness or the great spirit in the sky or God or whatever. But yeah, they're definitely not human.
Right. That's right. That's right. So that's why I had fun with my last book, to kind of take all this weird stuff and weave it into a novel, because I thought, well, some people just like to read a story and they don't want to read research and stuff. So I thought I would create what I called a teaching novel. This one right here.
There you go.
Yeah. And called The Unexpected Journey. It's about this police detective who, he's sidelined with an injury and he's stuck at a desk job and he's getting depressed, and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to chase all the perverts on the street and arrest them. And so he's really kind of bummed out. It'd be like in Blue Bloods if Danny got stuck at a desk and couldn't go out there and chase all the bad guys anymore. But anyway, his friend in Italy says, "Hey, why don't you bring your detective skills and help me, on our team here? We just formed, under the Vatican's guidance, the new Miraculous Claims Investigation Unit." And he thought, well, I could be with my best friend and I could use my detective skills. And So he went for it. And you learn that in the first couple pages of the book. But so the whole unexpected journey takes him on all these places and different supernatural things that he thinks he can explain away. And then he's finding that he can't really. And it takes a lot of twists and turns, and a lot of unexpected things happen. But in my way, it's a teaching novel because every single miracle he investigates actually did happen.
Oh.
Nice.
So, and at the
Okay,
back of the book,
people,
at the
if you
back of the
want
book, there's 30 pages that talk about the real miracles.
that's great. People, if you want to ask John questions, put them in all caps, and here we go. What's more plausible, Bigfoot or ghosts?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I know people who I trust implicitly and work with regularly who see Bigfoot all the time. And so in Georgia and in Canada. So there you go.
But
and
I do think
we see it. We see our own ghosts. We don't need to worry about other people's.
But I do think Bigfoot is dimensional. It comes in and out through portals.
Yeah. So, and my favorite evidence of that is there's a lot of cases where they find these footprints and they make plaster of the footprints, but it's only on one side of the Bigfoot. Where's the other one? Through the portal into the other dimension, and they're walking 1 foot over here and 1 foot over there.
Exactly. That's right. And they have been witnessed to disappear in a flash of light, or to, they've been seen to disappear. Even on Skinwalker Ranch, one pulled itself out of the ground, out of some space, and into the field, and they watched it walk away. I mean, there's just so much stuff like that we don't understand. But they even have a hair that had DNA that did not match anything known on Earth. So they've done a lot of science with Bigfoot.
So if you had a paranormal experience, why pursue it further in an investigation?
What's that now?
If you had a paranormal experience, why pursue it further in an investigation? That's an audience question.
Oh, well, that's up to you. I mean, it might freak you out to know more, and you might not want to deal with it, but it'll probably always nag at you. I have found that most people that explore stuff are actually relieved because it tended to explain what was happening in their lives.
Oh, yeah.
It's like most people think spirits are evil or bad, but often it can be like grandma or dad playing a trick or having fun. Kid ghosts are notorious for hiding stuff and then having you find it 3 days later where you're supposed to be.
Watching her work, the number one thing I see or hear about or told later is relief from validation.
Yes.
She won't let them tell her anything. So when she hits on what there's happening to them and she identifies the salient features and then goes further than they've been able to go, they get validation and they are, like healed.
Yeah.
Kind of amazing.
And that's what I found. I haven't seen people, even UFO abductions, I haven't seen them get worse after they remember stuff. Every one of them seemed to heal and feel better.
Right. So when you did, what kind of paranormal work did you do? Did you go to haunted houses or any of those things?
Oh, I've been to a few.
And what kind of equipment, if anything, would you take?
We had motion detectors, we had cameras, we had the little energy voice recorder things, and
K2 meters or trifield meters, yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I remember looking into the kitchen area, and it was dark in there except for like the lights on the stove and stuff. And then I saw like them go out, and I thought, well, that's weird. Why did they go out? And then I realized something passed in front of them.
Oh God.
And a minute later, the motion detector went off in the hallway, and there was nothing there. And if you walk by, you'd have to almost stop by it to make it go off. So something very present was there. So But I just get excited. I don't get scared. I get excited and want to work with it, deal with it, find out more.
Yeah, I've not been afraid of anything that's come around. Even when we had the non-human entity in smoke walk up on us in the backyard, and we got the picture of it. That didn't frighten me.
Well,
have we shown you that?
Yeah, we did.
I think so. You
Yeah.
can send it to me again, but I'm reminded in Star Wars where Yoda says, "If you're not scared, you will be."
Yeah.
Spirits still kind of scare me a little bit just because of their energy I can pick up on, but aliens and other things, I'm more numb to it. So
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, no, maybe wants to know, have you come across any claim cases of levitation during hypnosis?
no, that's a good question.
They've remembered levitating, but not actually while I'm in the session with them. Like they remember during their UFO encounters levitating off the bed or coming back and levitating just above the bed and then dropping into it. But in terms of in the session, no, nobody's floated up off the couch or wherever. I would have it on film if that did, because I video every session.
So, Pickles and Peanut Butter 2566, I've had hitchhikers follow me home from Chris Bledsoe's home.
You have to explain what.
And hitchhiker is we saw UFOs, had interactions with them and other things, and then the paranormal whatever it was followed me home. And the result of that was a common occurrence from people that go and visit Chris Bledsoe. A few months later, I retired, so I went to my cardiologist because I was going to move hundreds of miles away, and I wanted to make sure everything was okay because I knew it would take me a while to find a good cardiologist in the new place. And the cardiologist says, "What is going on? What has happened?" And I says, "Well, what are you talking about?" He says, "Well, I gave you the full-blown test, and if I looked at these readings, I can't tell you've ever had a heart attack, and you've had 3 and a quadruple bypass."
Whoa.
It was a miraculous healing.
Wow.
I have 100% function, total evacuation of my ventricles with every heartbeat, and there's no reason that should be there because 15% of my heart died.
Now, has that been since you known Lala?
No, it was before I knew Lala.
Oh, I was going to give her credit.
Yeah, with Bledsoe. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but the answer is yes. Have you had hitchhikers, John?
No.
Yeah, Lala's had quite a few.
Yeah, I don't always realize I do though until much later, usually.
Well, you're that beacon of light that draws a lot of things to you.
That's what I was told last night, and that sometimes they snuck in and stuck around, and I, even now she was clearing out some stuff.
So what are your experiences with in religious contexts where you've had clients, etc., of demon-like things?
Not so much demon things. I've told you about the main one, the 2 different cases, and I really haven't had any others like that. I'm very careful not to invite or open anything like that. I wear blessed objects, have them around me, and it feels like a force field that just keeps me from having any trouble. But in terms of spiritual experiences, I had a real interesting one. And then I'll tell you about one that my Ruthie here had as well. We were at a place where supposedly the Virgin Mary was appearing and did so on the 13th of every month in Missouri. And the visionary was very genuine. He's actually a farm guy and not someone that you would expect to have anything like this going on. And he at one point said that, well, he goes into like a trance when she shows up. And at that moment, Ruthie saw a glowing light behind the statue of the Virgin Mary that was nearby.
Wow.
And then a second later, I smelled roses, like someone had just sprayed rose mist right in my face.
Wow.
And that's a very common religious experience. The saints called it the odor of sanctity because they smelled it often. And she smelled lilies. Well, afterwards, he said that not only was the Virgin Mary here, but Saint Joseph was here too, and he always carries lilies. And he pointed out where they had walked, and it was right in front of us. And we didn't know, but he did, and he said that's where they walked. And he didn't know we had experienced anything. But I smelled the roses clear as could be. I mean, it was so obvious. And she smelled lilies at the same time. So, and I'll tell you something else I don't usually talk about, but when she was going off, before I really got into all this religious research, she was on a trip to take a new job in Missouri. And it was a pretty big job that would have her traveling a lot. And as she neared the place where she was going to be interviewed, this bright light stopped her car. And she thought, that's weird. The sun shouldn't be coming from that direction. It should be behind me. She looked in the mirror and she saw a vision of the Virgin Mary. And she heard her voice say to her, stop, turn around. I have a mission for John. He is mine. You must go back and support him. She turned that car around and she went home, and she did not tell me for 3 years until I'd written my first book about Marian apparitions. And then she told me. She couldn't have influenced me whatsoever. And yet, as she watched me get inspired and follow these inspirations to write, she then, after the book came out, she said, I need to tell you something. And she told me what had happened.
Oh,
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, my dad was a minister, and he was driving over to one of the little churches in his circuit. He had a regular church, but after he's quote retired unquote, he would be a circuit minister. And he was headed to one of the little churches, and it started thundering and lightning and raining. And something told him, stop, turn around, and go back.
Interesting.
And he stopped, turned around, and went home, and found out that the next day that a half mile ahead of him, the bridge had washed away, and it was pitch black dark, and he would not have seen it.
Oh yeah. We have guardian angels. We have spirits that do those things, and people need to take note. They need to pay attention.
So recently, Lala had 2 accidents in my truck. Both of them were the other car's fault. One was a high 50-mile-an-hour rear end.
Oh
50
my!
miles an hour. Okay,
Oh.
so that was the first one, and it knocked the truck forward.
I was at a red light.
She was at a red light, stopped, and they failed to stop, hit her at 50, and moved the truck forward. They totaled their car. My truck did not have a mark on it. Okay, so then 2 months later, she's driving down the road, getting ready to turn left onto the street off which we live. And gal drove her car right through the stop sign and whacked her, turned her sideways, tore the fender off the lady's car, and not a mark on my truck.
And look, the same cop was there, and he goes,
I'm going to buy one of these trucks.
He couldn't believe it. Yeah.
So but the second time I says, okay, I thought it was the first time, and now I know it the second time. Something is protecting you.
Forget the truck. I want Lala to ride with me every day, since I drive distances every day, because I know where the force field is, and it's around her. So
exactly, I know it is.
Boy, yeah, you need to come visit. I could use your help fighting the traffic here. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, she and her son both times in the truck. Neither one of them had a mark, and the truck has no mark, 0 mark.
It was weird. Yeah.
Man, it's too bad you couldn't package that and sell it. Call it Lala Insurance, and and oh my gosh, what a hit that would be.
Okay, John, it's 12 after. We want so in order to make up for the faux pas, we'll have you again real soon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
well,
we like these.
you should watch what I say while you're out to lunch there in the dark.
We'll look.
Hey guys, it's
was
been great. I love talking with you guys. You have great questions, and it just brings out all this stuff that's hidden inside of me that I often don't think about until someone brings it up. So I appreciate being able to share with all of you and all of you out
And
there.
I apologize to the audience for the little faux pas, but it was still a great show because John is an interesting person, led an interesting life, and full of great stories.
Well, thank you so much.
His books are on Amazon.
Yeah, come on, get his books. They're on Amazon.
Where can they find you, by the way?
Yeah, how do they get in touch with you?
You can email me anytime. It's Carpenter, Carpenter, just like it sounds. Carpenter 2655 at AOL.com. And don't worry, you're not going. I get so much junk mail that I'd be glad to have some real mail. So, so don't hesitate. And if you do, I'll probably send you an autographed copy at a little cheaper rate. So there.
Thank you so much, John. We'll see you again.
You're welcome. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.